Hi everyone, I'm Daria Lawson, host of Decomposing, one of the Arrow Podcast Network's featured shows. If you love music, analysis, and the music world's questions and contemplations, check out the show and tons of other Arrow podcasts at southeastarrow.com/multimedia.
Many people think that the best way to escape war...
This is the playback from Arrow Podcast Network and Redhawk Radio Theater.
All right, everybody, welcome to the playback. We are a part of the Arrow Podcast Network, and we are operated by Redhawk Radio Theater. As part of the Arrow Podcast Network, there are lots of Arrow Podcast Network shows you can listen to, so find those at southeastarrow.com. So we're here today. I'm your host, Clayton Hester. We've got Abby Emmons with us here today, and she is not one of our usual suspects, but we're hoping that she will become one of them, you know, in the lineup of suspects that we usually have for you.
I was going to say, I like the word suspect, but like, that's really reassuring.
I figured I'd kind of extend the metaphor, you know, like into
Yeah.
the, like, you know, like like the lineup in police. I don't know.
I love it.
But anyway, she
kind of fits right in track with what we're going to talk about.
we're not trying to incriminate anybody here, but yeah. Abby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
That's
How
great.
about you?
I'm doing good. It's a nice day out. We're recording this on a rather snowy day. Well, rather snowy, and the snow has hung around since yesterday. It was quite a dusting there yesterday.
Yeah. And I mean, for this area, we haven't gotten snow like this in a couple years,
It's
so it's
weird,
nice.
you know. And like somebody had posted in the university's, you know, chat group, I guess, you know, and Facebook group. It was just that, you know, these don't come all that often, and it's kind of weird because, you know, growing up in the area, it was like it felt like for school wise,
Yeah, it snowed all the time.
it snowed all the time, and now
now
it's,
we're like, not that much.
yeah. And I know, you know, since I'm a commuter, it's like I do appreciate the fact that the roads, there are no problems.
They've
because the
held
school
up.
don't shut down, you know. It's
Never.
Like,
At least we have Zoom now.
yeah, it's true. That's true. Like at least, you know, I can just like, I don't have any excuses, but I also don't have any absences, in the strictest sense of being completely stuck if something arises. Yeah, but we're here today, you know, the usual roundup of shows we've been listening to, things that we've been kind of getting into. Abby, did you want to talk about what you've been listening to lately first?
Yeah, so I've been listening to a podcast called The Amelia Project. And so basically it's a secret agency that fakes the death of people. So they'll kind of like, they'll have clients come in and they only choose like a select few, and they will help them frame their own death so that everyone in their life thinks they're dead, and then helps them like start over fresh. And so basically I found it really interesting because I was like, man, that's kind of unique. And then it's set up in like an interview format. So we have an interviewer and then the client. And along the course of the show, you kind of figure out why they want to fake their death, and then like why they choose the fake death they did, et cetera, et cetera. And so you kind of pick up little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it's
Yeah.
pretty good. I mean, there's 33 episodes. Each one's a different person. And I've done 4 of them so far.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's absolutely great. You know, and that's kind of the interesting thing about it is that how we have these things play out and how they go is really kind of shaped by the craft of audio drama itself. Is there anything to your mind that is specifically aided in telling this story by the fact it's an audio drama versus maybe another medium, anything like that?
I think the way they've set up the interviewer is he's very flamboyant, I suppose. He's very much oh, well, hello, welcome. And, you know, he really goes for it. And so he'll, they pair him narrating some things that happen with sound effects.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of pick up. So there was one point in the first episode where the client, like, beats up the bodyguards type of thing, like the security guards. So she like goes to beat them up, and he's like, wait, what are you doing? And then you hear a bunch of punching noises, and you can kind of figure out that there's a fight. But it's not until you hear her voice that you figure out, oh, she just beat up Joey and Salvatore.
Yeah.
So it's one of those funny things.
Yeah. Exposition's always one of those fun things where you've just got to try to make sure that, like, obviously in the world of show don't tell, which,
Hard to do an audio drama.
Yeah, it is. It's like, this is the sovereign rule, that you just have to abide by. Like, English department, folks there, I've spent time that creative writing minor has done for me, but as far as just folks that have been over there, it's like this is the rule. Like this was handed down on a stone tablet.
Ever since like grade school, everyone's like, oh, show don't tell, and then we came to audio dramas, and we were like, well, how? How do we do that?
Yeah,
but I think it's great because there's at one point he gets like a cup of cocoa, and you can hear he drinks it out of a teacup. You can hear it clanking on the little saucer as he takes a sip and puts it down and puts it on the table. Like you can hear those noises. So he doesn't even have to say, oh, I'm going to take a drink. It just, you hear it. It's like ambiance noise, like you're at a cafe or something.
Right.
And it's great.
You're automatically signaled to those sorts of things.
I think they've done sound effects really, really well on this show. I think they pieced it together well, that it overlaps with the noises well.
Right.
And they do, at the beginning, it's like a voicemail is like their little intro. So it'll be like the message going on the machine, and so it sounds a little more robotic, and then the client will leave a message, and then it cuts to like the title music, and so like you can tell it's on a phone. Like they've edited it well enough that you can tell, hey, that's a phone, and you can tell like the sound effects. Like there's very little noise wise that I had to go, what is that?
Exactly.
Like they've picked their noises really well, and they've overlapped it with everything so that it just creates a very cohesive picture, and I think it was very well done.
Yeah. And that's one of the interesting things about it, and that's one of the things that you think about interpreting things from a sound design perspective, and as writers planning that sort of thing and kind of coordinating that sort of thing with sound designers, with audio editors, is to key in on those things that are recognizable. And it's like this, well, what is this clank? Well, this is the scene setting going on actively around us, and that's really just a fascinating thing about it, is the ability to do that, and to make that that sort of thing happen. But yeah, no, that's one of the interesting things, and that kind of reminds me sort of the thing. I don't remember exactly where it came from, but I feel like it was a Ken Burns documentary, but it just mentioned kind of that transition from radio to TV, and like people's, imaginations as they kind of transferred over to that sort of thing, like so many different radio dramas back in the day would do. Like Gabrielle, who is part of the main, who is the vice president of the organization, and who part of a lot of our productions and everything with Redhawk Radio Theater, specifically did a whole report last semester on the kind of transition from radio drama to TV for a lot of different shows, like Lone Ranger and different things like that. So, one thing that someone had remarked at one point was just the pictures are better in radio, and that's an interesting thing, just the way that it can help to color those pictures in your mind of what it is that people want them to see, what they want to imagine.
Yeah, it's amazing in theater, writing, and even audio drama, just the little things that make it feel natural.
Yeah.
Because on theater, like if you're in a public space, like people walking on stage is going to feel more natural, like a little rustle bustle, but you don't want it to overpower, the actors. And so I think it's a little harder on a TV show within reason.
Yeah.
It's gotten better with time, but like, I feel like it's so much easier to control the sound in a theater or in an audio drama than it is on a film set.
Yeah. And, the key to making even a good movie, or I'll specify, in order to make a good talkie, in order to make, a good talkie. Let me get my mid-Atlantic accent out here in a second, and I'll throw back a little bit. But the idea, of course, if you do have dialogue and lots of sound in something, then a traditional movie, now traditional, you are dependent upon the sound and picture must be good, because if it's missing one of those two things, it's a great imbalance. But if you are you are basically, you have to miss part of the visual aspect with audio drama, but you kind of do the same load of work, but in less of the same, in less of the same conduits of visual and audio. So you have to kind of put it all in.
Yeah.
One. Yeah.
Missing those visual cues can be complicated, but if you time it out well, you aren't missing anything.
Yeah.
It's almost just like you're eavesdropping on, something that's going on behind you in a weird way.
Yeah. And, one of the interesting things is that I apparently kind of end up writing characters a lot that have like tags with them. I don't know, like it's kind of the same thing. Like they have an object that they're associated with, and it's like, well, they having an object that's non-visual. That kind of creates an interesting thing, I guess. If there are ways you could certainly do it. I think that
it's funny because the interviewer in this series, his object is a cup of cocoa.
Yeah.
And like I said, they do the little teacup noises. Or they'll be like, oh, do you want a cup of cocoa? Mm-hmm. The other thing they do at the end, they usually end every episode, I've noticed, with popping a bottle of champagne.
Mm.
So kind of like that gunshot popping noise at the end, just to really finalize it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some cool repetitive things in here.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I picked up on as the episodes go on is you're starting to pick up more on like the interviewer, and then like I mentioned, Joey and Salvatore are like the security guards, and you start to pick up more on them and their past, and kind of a little bit on the organization. So it's interesting that you get the stories of each person, and then now we're also throughout the whole series picking up on everyone else that's like a reoccurring character.
Right. And one of the interesting things is talking about all this exposition. I've noticed also listening to a few that there's also an alternative way of going about this situation of exposition, because some folks that might not have access to an array of actors and things like that will do basically just kind of an audiobook as audio drama. So they're just writing basically a serial drama that they'll just read and kind of present that way, as opposed to like writing a whole book or compiling that. And so it's just released in installments, which is an interesting throwback when you think of like lots of books that originally started out as things released in like magazines and different things like that. Like especially Charles Dickens specifically comes to mind and things like that. So that's an interesting development, and I'd be interested to see where that goes. One of them that I listened to was Star Collector, which is kind of an interesting beginning point, because it kind of imagines itself as a mashup of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I guess it's very much going for the George Lucas-esque legacy there, combining his two greatest things, because artifacts in space. That's a pretty good. I think that's an idea. That's a good idea.
You don't need another space show, Clayton.
I like space. What can I say? You
are wearing a Star Trek shirt.
It's true.
So.
It's true. I'm a fan. Space geek and all. It's like, but yeah, those sorts of things where that it's not necessarily the conventions that are currently being made in terms of audio. But it's a thing that presents a new way, and a way that you can manage things that you want to accomplish in terms of audio drama, because not everybody has as much access to a wide array of actors or sound designers and things like that. So you can definitely go at it from that approach as well. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. And I was thinking about it in terms of exposition, in terms of like having tags and things, and just thinking about Indiana Jones, I think would probably work well as an audio drama, but you can hear the crack of the whip.
Yeah. I
mean, you might not see him running from a big boulder, but
you can kind of hear it.
Yeah, I think you could see.
Because the stone grinding on stone, I feel like.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing next? Adapting Indiana Jones to the audio drama world?
I don't know if we'll get the
project?
rights, but I've just been thinking a lot about it, because I'm trying to imagine my ideal new Indiana Jones 5. What would I write that as? But it's like, I think that's kind of the thing of like like, what are my expectations and how are they going to be met in terms of reality? I kind of did the same thing with the new Star Wars movies, and so, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, that's always an interesting thing to think about in terms of still building the scenes and crafting the scenes, and developing on different things. But the narrative as well can be really bolstered by this. You mentioned kind of I think the genre aspect of audio dramas is always an interesting thing. What do you think about how you could basically with less of a gap between writers and the means by which they can communicate the stories they have in mind? Do you think that helps get different concepts and ideas and genres like out there, as opposed to like, going to Los Angeles and pitching a TV show?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, because there are different styles of writers to some degree, that some people are really good with dialogue and some people are good, better with action. And so those who are better with action and like writing those type of scenes would benefit more in like a TV setting or a written page setting. But for those people that rely heavily on dialogue, I mean, the audio drama format is a wonderful place that they might not even know exists. So there's a bunch of writers out there that can, come up with these great dialogues, but then they're like, well, I have nothing to put it with, so guess I'll just set it aside. So I don't know if it's the fact that we get more genres, but I mean, it's possible if we get the right writers in that you can just get more variety in the genres. Right. Like you get new ideas, new concepts that might not have been there in a traditional writing or TV format.
Yeah. Now, I haven't seen My Dinner with Andre, but I have seen the Community episode that soft parodies it, and I've seen the scene that gets passed around on Facebook about basically how the guy saying something like New York is or any city is kind of like you're building yourself a prison in terms of living in the city or whatever he says there. But I feel like that could be well adapted to an audio drama, which I mean, it's not too hard considering it's just a movie hinged around a conversation. But anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely think that's a great point in terms of different genres. I really, I think that a lot of folks may approach genre as a hindrance because it kind of considers yourself working inside of a box. But I'm a strong proponent of the fact that recognizing these can be a neat way to innovate on them or tweak them.
Yeah, I mean, you came up with your space western, and I mean that's a whole new genre on its own. I mean, I bet you're one of the first.
True. Well, I mean, there's still so. The interesting thing about some of these is that they kind of get subtly mixed into things. Like Star Wars has its own space western stuff going on, and now that's kind of spun off into its own thing with like the Mandalorian and stuff.
Oh yeah,
which I didn't see before I wrote Starship Rim. I'm watching it currently now, but just as a point of
just so everyone knows.
Just so everyone knows. I mean, I don't feel bad about like people getting inspiration from things that are popular. I mean, it's just as long as you do it gracefully. I mean,
yeah.
But and Firefly back in the day, that cult favorite where everybody feels quite upset that it is gone before its time, but
it happens.
Yeah, it does. They get canned. But no, yeah, it's one of those things where you have opportunities to really, make your dreams alive. There's also kind of a tendency to treat a lot of audio dramas as kind of a proof of concept in order to basically, I don't know, prove their point to different opportunities of developers and showrunners and different things like that. But yeah,
which is so funny to me because this used to be the pinnacle of entertainment, and now here we are having to bring it back.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How funny, society cycles like that, like 90s fashions in again, and, it's 2021.
Exactly. I was wanting to ask too, since to do a little bit of a look at some of our stuff going on. Well, more specifically, just kind of like reflecting, since we we're working in this medium. What kind of things are you looking at in terms of writing? And I mean, I guess maybe I should start over and say what sort of things do you look at whenever you're like in the process of working with writers and stuff? Because you're one of the heads of our writers room for Redhawk Radio Theater, and I think with that that's a really interesting place to be with in order to help people manifest their ideas.
Yeah, it's great. Our little pride and joy right now is Bigfoot. The Cryptid Tapes, Bigfoot is our newest release, and that was completely a writer's room project. We started with the concept, and we found a writer for it, and we helped cultivate the idea and edit it, and so that's our proof right now that the writer's room works. So we've actually produced a show, like we've done it. But I think it's great because one of the first meetings we ever had in writer's room, we had already 3 very different ideas all thrown out. And because, I mean, we had Bigfoot, which was kind of a donated idea. And then one of our writers, Austin, had an idea, which I won't spoil that. Well, I got to keep listening for that. Got to head over to, Redhawk Radio Theater on Spotify if you want to hear. I think we're releasing that hopefully sometime this semester.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for that. So we had Austin come up with an idea for a show. And then Caitlin, who actually wrote Bigfoot, in the very beginning stages of Bigfoot, came in and said, "Hey, I've got another idea." And I was like, I love it. Like all 3 ideas were very different. Because Bigfoot's it's cryptid. Like it's set in modern Missouri, but it's a very supernatural. Like it focuses on that heavily. And then Austin's show is kind of like a Fallout type of thing. So we have that of like a dystopian future type of show. And then Caitlin's doing kind of, I think, a modern hospital drama type of thing. Not like Grey's Anatomy. It focuses more on the patient. We're not doing a Grey's Anatomy or House or anything. But I mean, it was just so cool. Just within the first couple of weeks of doing Writer's Room, we already had 3 shows, each, from the 2 writers, each uniquely different. And I thought it was great to see that and just being able to be like, these are great because, and it's okay within reason. People are always worried. They're like, well, I had this idea, but I only have the concept. I don't have anything else. And I'm always like, to me, that's okay. If you are passionate to follow this through, like, is part of my job as head of Writer's Room to help you cultivate that idea. Like, we can talk about characters, we can talk about plot, we can talk about the nitty-gritty, we can help set things up where you can come in with just a concept like Caitlin is and come out with a show. And like I said, Bigfoot's our prime example of that. We just had a concept. We had a little over 2 pages, I think, of writing. And heck, we have a 30-minute show now. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that I've been really happy to see that. Because, I mean, we just started that last semester, and we've already come out with 1 show. We're fixing to hit 2. And, if Caitlin starts that 3rd show, I mean, within the 1 school year, we might have 3 shows come out of the writer's room. And that's really exciting to me because we only have 3 writers. Maybe.
Yeah. No, that's
not
fantastic.
Including you, of course, but you're a little more self-sufficient. Not that that's bad to be self-sufficient or need the writer's room. To each their own. Everyone has different writing styles, and that's fine.
I've been thinking a lot about the concept of the auteur, which is like basically it's a French word for author, and if I mispronounce that, okay, you can get on my back about that. Just so I know how to say it in the future. But point being is that just the idea of those, especially as I get more into interest in the art of film, and not to take away from this specifically, because I don't know, because audio drama is a craft. It's an art of its own. and it deserves that recognition. Because in the same way, if you have a passion and you drive at it and you go for it, you work as director, you work with composers, you work to write this, you work with sound design and audio editing to make it into your vision. That kind of auteur idea, the idea of just the director that gets into there and expresses this vision in most of the capacities, if not all, that are involved in making a movie. My interest in the Coen brothers and Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan, it continues to develop over time. And so the idea of expressing these different things and trying to get into all of the subtleties you can play with to tell these narratives is a really interesting thing. And, I feel very excited that I've had the opportunity to write all that I have and to deliver, what I've had so far. And I feel excited that other people have that opportunity as well. In whatever regards that they want to do it. If they want to kind of collaborate, then we've got the writer's room and things like that. And so that's an opportunity for them. And so that's one of the facets in which we allow people to develop their craft.
Absolutely. And I mean, Austin's been pretty self-sufficient in his show because, I mean, he's come in every once in a while. Like, I think he was there for the first couple meetings, and then he was mostly self-sufficient. He sent his script over here and there just for, like, am I on the right track type of thing. But overall, he's very self-sufficient. He uses it more of a feedback thing, not an idea thing, and that's fine. Like, the writer's room is there for however you want to use it, and I've seen, dependent authors, independent authors, and pretty much everything in between. It's whatever you want to use it for.
Yep. Exactly. Well, that has allowed us to give a little bit of an opportunity to give a sneak peek in terms of this semester, and I'm excited about a lot of projects. And somebody was talking to me the other day about the idea that they had in mind, and I can let you know about that one and what they were thinking. But yeah, that's really what it's about. And what it's about is just an opportunity to get incredible stories. And what's coming out, what's in the works for our next one by yours truly. I started out writing this idea that I had. It's like, well, this could be an audio drama, but I mean, I think that this is kind of an opportunity. I think it was probably started out as more of like a proof of concept type thing that I was thinking about, like I mentioned earlier. But once you get into it, you're like, well, what if I do this in order to really make this immersive, to put people in the shoes of the characters, in order to make that something that really couldn't be done in another medium in the same way, and something that could be done specifically with regards to, people having their earbuds in and listening to this story, this tale, or just playing it in their car and things like that. And something that this transports them in a personal regard that isn't common to many mediums. So that's kind of the things that go through your head with that. But I think that wraps up a lot of what we were talking about today, and I think that's nears the end of our show. Did you have any other closing thoughts on anything we talked about today?
Like I said, I guess just to give it another little plug because I thought it was a good show.
Sure.
It's the Amelia Project by Imploding Fictions. And I will just say right now, my personal favorite right now is episode 2. I'm just going to drop his name because it's kind of the title. And I think if the name doesn't sell you on it, nothing will. His name is Zale Indigo Ravenheart. And if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will.
That's beautiful.
Isn't it?
That's a very literary name, It's like that really leaps off.
It only gets better in the show, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Great to be here.
All right, folks, keep listening. Keep tuning in for all the playback stuff. Tune in to the Arrow Podcast Network's other shows, anywhere you get your podcast. We are super available. We are super out there, and well, we are super out there. We are there for you to be listened to at the click of a finger. So until next time, I'm Clayton Hester saying, keep listening and keep your ear to the ground.